Hi, I'm Jonah, and this is a Learn to Play tutorial for Kumbaya. And this is a song that so many of us grew up singing either like around the campfire or in school. And it's a song about coming together. And I always hope that music can bring us together. It's the universal language that really crosses all divides. And I really hope that we all can use that to our advantage to come and create places of connection and togetherness. Now I'm going to play this on a Nova flute in the key of A minor, and I'm using the double flute because I love showcasing how double flutes can be used in a melody to emphasize the melody and to create a lot of dynamics within our playing. So I'm going to play through the song once, and then I'll go through an introduction on how to use the tutorial, and then I'll go through the tutorial itself, and then I'll also play another version of the song on a bass flute in the key of B. Now, the easiest way that I find to learn songs is to work through them phrase by phrase. Now, phrases are like sentences. You put a bunch of sentences together to build a story. In the same way, you put a bunch of phrases together to build a song. Essentially, each time you pause to take a breath, you've completed a phrase. And because in the music we've added these breath marks, you can easily see that the phrases begin and end at each of these breath marks. I've also noted the number of the phrases using these italicized numbers. Phrase 1, 2, and so on. As I walk through each phrase, I'll note anything that's unusual or particularly challenging in that phrase, and then I'll show you how to play it, and I'll play it at a really slow tempo. And at that point, I suggest pausing the video and working on that phrase until you have the fingerings and the rhythm pretty well down at that slow tempo, and then move on to the next phrase. Once you move through the whole song, I suggest going back to the beginning of the song and working through each phrase again. And each time you do that, your hands will memorize the fingerings a little bit more, and you'll memorize the rhythms a little bit more, and the song will get easier to play, and you can start bringing it up to tempo. This is a note that some of you may not have played before, and when you come to this note in the song, have some patience with yourself. It might take a little time to learn the transition from the note before it to this note and then to the note after it. I'll also be talking more about this note and the transitions as we walk through each phrase. This is the sheet music for Kumbaya, and in this overview of the sheet music, I just want to show you one thing, and that is that phrases 1, 2, 3, and 4 are exactly the same as phrases 5, 6, 7, and 8. And so because of that, I'm only going to show you how to play phrases 1, 2, 3, and 4. And by learning those phrases, you'll have learned how to play the second half of the song, which is just a repetition of the first half. So this is the first phrase of the song, and it's a pretty straightforward phrase. And one thing to note is that the rhythm that you see here, 2/8 notes, followed by 2 quarter notes, followed by 2/8 notes, followed by some note that's held for a longer period of time, like this is a dotted half note which gets 3 beats, and later on in the song there's a whole note tied to a quarter note, so that would get 5 beats. But otherwise this rhythm is pretty much exactly the same throughout the song. So as you're learning the rhythm here, you're learning the rhythm in all the phrases throughout the whole song. Now the notation in this phrase is pretty straightforward as well, and that's because all the notes that are here are found in the pentatonic minor scale, which is the scale that everybody first learns to play when we're learning to play the Native American flute. So the muscle memory is already in your fingers to catch these notes. This is the second phrase of the song, and again, the rhythm is exactly the same, but the notation is a little bit different. And the first four notes are exactly the same as the first phrase, but these last three notes are different. And you're doing kind of a falling thing. You know, in the first phrase you end the phrase on an upward swing, and in the second phrase you end it on a downward swing. And the one thing to note is that this note here may be new for some of you. And if it is, then there's some cross fingering going from this note to this note to this note that you'll have to teach your fingers the muscle memory of how to catch those fingerings. What I would suggest is you just go back and forth between these notes, so maybe between this note and this note, a bunch of times, just without even playing. First maybe in the mirror, or just like back and forth to teach your fingers, and then just start playing the notes back and forth. Ta, 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 ta. And then move on to this note, and again do the same thing. And then put them all together, one after the other. And I think you'll find pretty quickly that your fingers learn the muscle memory of how to do these cross fingerings and catch this new note. This is the third phrase of the song, and this phrase is actually exactly the same as phrase 1, except that the last note is held for 5 beats, where in phrase 1 it's held for 3 beats. But otherwise it's exactly the same. This is the fourth phrase of the song, and this phrase starts with this note that might be new for some of you. And you saw this note earlier in phrase 2, and if it is new for some of you, you might still need to work on the muscle memory to catch this note. Now this phrase is ending the first half of the song, and like I said in the very beginning, the second half of the song is just a repeat of the first half of the song. So this is kind of like an ending point in the song, or a real heavy pausing point, a transitional point. And the descending melody that occurs in this phrase really pulls you into that feeling of this kind of restful feeling. And kind of a similar effect happened in phrases 1 and 2, where phrase 1, the melody ends on kind of an ascending feel, and then phrase 2 ends on a descending feel. And then you go to phrase 3, which has again that ascending feel, and then you go into phrase 4, which has a descending feel, and it descends even more, giving this feel of finality, kind of this pausing place or an ending place. In this case, it's a pausing place because you go right back into the melody again. So this would take us to phrase 5 and onward, phrase 6, 7, and 8. And so, like I said in the beginning of the tutorial, phrases 5, 6, 7, and 8 are exactly the same as phrases 1, 2, 3, and 4 that we just went over in detail. So instead of going over those again, I'm going to just let you play on and enjoy this beautiful song.